Okay, God has been like giving me lots of messages regarding Tartaria. I did one of like a Dola sort of vision of what I think he wants. I kind of applied it to my local town. They called it Mesdian Park or something like that. It's kind of close to where I live, the actual sound of it, but it must be in Tartarian kind of lilted language. So I'll upload that with this. A time is coming, I think, where God, just excuse the printer, wants us to kind of break away from technologies and kind of go more sort of our own invented technologies, which is something that Tartaria is did in the past. It's kind of in the realm of like whether it's fantasy or reality, but from what I've heard, this time was actually buried by war crimes. God keeps saying that it was buried by war crimes, like deleted out. A lot of buildings went missing, with plights of war. I think it was an act of jealousy on, I would say, the serpent seed, Cain's seed, like because they wanted it to replace it with theirs. There's a lot of like talk about like Cabbage Patch Children as well, like that they bombed these areas with to kind of turn it into another way, like an infiltration. And I think this, as I say, I've said in other words in the past, this Tartaria is like a time where Cain's seed and, an Adam's seed, and I say that in a spiritual sense as well, work together, those who lilt more towards the darkness and those who lilt more towards God. I think they were both reverent of God. That looks like a cross up the corner. And they work together, like doing great things. And I think today he was talking to people in V2K because he wants them to put down their sorcery and start, like using, their abilities, in the dark to gain wealth and status and things like that. And to actually see this vision that will be quite amazing. And like, I think we're all on fire for it, but it's like the stubborn few that will just want things their own way. And it's like Tartaria is a time coming similar to both small and larger people. I don't know why I said that, small and large people. In other words, what was previously, rich people and poor people will work together, inventing these communities for each other. I can see like, like people who otherwise probably be Oxford types that have their heads in books. They'll actually be getting down and dirty on the floor, like with their spanners and like, tweaking these inventions. And like poor people, I mean, I know somebody who is quite talented at making things for necessity, but he isn't always neat in his presentation, but he has some fantastic ideas. I've worked with him like making guitars and stuff, so I just think it'll be an amalgamation of like different skill sets, coming together. And like, as I say, I saw something today that was not ridiculous. I saw on the internet a woman with a big barrel thing that was like, like she was walking down the street with it, and I thought that'd be good for like a washing machine while you're out walking. So if you just want to walk down to somebody's house or a shop, and you can be doing your washing once you're actually walking with this device that was rolling at the back of you. Like just like, I mean, that's like very, very simple device, but like these time-saving devices that, I feel like something very eccentric is coming, like, not necessarily perfect, but, like it can be perfect and it can be ridiculous as well at the same time. Like, like just and I also saw like, like alternatives as well, like, well, I'll go into that later, but I'll come up to that. And it's mainly basically to keep out the necessity, keep out, like the corporates, you know, like what we need to survive, really. You know, like where probably have our own wells. You know, like Tesla's a good pointer because I don't think he actually sold out, but he was fascinated with electricity, and like he'd come up with this I don't know, electricity points kind of, so it's like an aerial thing which actually draws electricity from the ether. It's hard to explain, but I've kind of put this in my you know, Dola AI generated world picture. You know, like I envision it for my area. And like if you look at all the Tartaria pictures, it's got all these buildings that are quite stunning, you know, that are quite beautiful. And I've got many windows, and you got neat little gardens, and you got all these other inventions. Whether they were actually real, I don't know, but time will tell. As I say, it's been hidden. And like I see a vision where children will be working with adults, you know, like I've seen stuff on home, their education, you know, like where they actually design their own play areas and things like that. You know, it's not they're like hands on with like the you know, the saws and, you know, things like that. I don't know if it's Netherlands or somewhere. They're supposed to have one of the best education systems in the world, where they're more hands-on and not like stuck at desks dying all day. And I like see something to do with like God as well, you know, like teaching, you know, like to be good husbands and good wives, you know, and like learning all the skills, you know, interchangeable, because like we've evolved, you know, both girls and boys can do a lot of the stuff, but you know, like men making houses, you know, all the skills for that. And you know, like that is taken for granted in schools, you know, like that you get prepped for this world that you're coming into, so you know, like male and females know their roles and both can interchange over, you know, like you know, like good housekeeping, you know, like children, rearing children, you know, stuff like that. Sexual education, which, you know, it's not about like having cheap sex and stuff. It's about having a meaningful relationship for life and things like that. I was like thinking of like Lidos. I've just found out there was a Lido in my area in the 70s, and like it looks absolutely amazing, you know, against the flats at the back. You know, it was a good release. I didn't even know that existed. So yeah, where we generate our own electric music festivals. I just see this world of steampunk, you know, interactive with like old sort of industry. I think God wants to get us away, at least for now, from, you know, all the high digital age stuff, because like, you know, they've got their sinister kind of things to pull us into the grid. You know, V2K demonstrates that. You know, like this stuff has got to be tested. You know, 5G, you know, might not be as good for us as what we think. I think we need like a rest from that kind of thing, really, while it gets sort of reimagined. And God says that He'll hand them back, you know, their you know, their technology, as long as they actually play along and like do the right thing by humanity. And like, you know, like the way this kind of Tartaria thing, you know, like everything can be different by each region. You know, they can shush it up how they like, you know, as I say, like it'd be like encouraging personal invention to get away from corporates, you know, that are running the electricity. That it'll be community based, you know, even like news and stuff like that, but will be kind of generated in their own communities and relevant to them. God was also saying about these, you know, electric converters or whatever, you know, these generators that they could use 5G technology, obviously when it's checked all out and stuff, to actually generate this electric. I don't know if they'll do that, but that was the message I got. As I say, God says, if you work with me, I'll trade you knowledge to achieve your goals. And then he kind of pointed to Tesla. As I say, like, I just don't think that guy sold out. like I think he was reverent of God, because it was in his family. Um, and he, like he went to his death, I think, penniless, looking after pigeons and things like that. But he was always inventive. Um, and like he's going on about, like pop stars and stuff, a lot of them are actually in V2K and like believe in the sorcery thing, as I say, to gain their wealth and their popularity and all that kind of stuff and hurting people. I mean, they're leading a very sort of backwards, low vibrational life, I think. And like God is showing them, what they can achieve, like in a God mindset, which is far more, they're having to be totally false. Some of them are having sexual rituals over you and things like that, and they claim that it's satisfying, but it's not. Like hurts you, obviously, but and like it's just so sick. Um, it says there are more talents in your bloodline that you haven't discovered yet. I keep seeing like Matt Bellamy and Sid Barrett and Tesla. Like I know there's a link between them three. I don't know if it's a Cabbage Patch link where they're seed of, in their family. But like all of them are quite bright, and they've got like very many attributes to their output than what's been before, and I think that they'll like really bloom in this season. And like he's like appealing to them. I want to take you with me on this next journey. Like put down your saucer and use it for better things, because like it's based in scientific knowledge. Like the rituals thing and all that has been made up. Down the centuries. And they don't get any more brownie points on the earth for doing that. It's only the fact that they can mess up your world, like with hidden knowledge from each other, which is based in a godless mind anyway. So, and these gods that they look towards, they don't mean anything at the end of the day. They're just empty. I don't know if you ever remember those crisps that were like piglets or whatever in the 70s, but they were like air on the middle. I mean, that's like what one of these gods are like. They're just empty air. I see a circus of activity. I mean, like I was like kind of discussing it with them earlier in V2K, like something as balmy as like climbing up a chimney pot, and then like music starts, and then there could be activities elsewhere, like a circus. So like there's like more interactive fun with like the viewer rather than just be static on like an artist, whereas it actually becomes like a hive of activity, like where it's actually really fun. I mean, like I'm kind of breaking that down at the moment, trying to figure that out, what God means. But like it can be interactive, or it can be, just people getting on with having fun. And boy, do we need to have fun after this. As I say, dualistic inventions like washing machines, doing your errands, like inventions, as I say, like I'm having to like do inventions, like and use my sewing machine just to like create things, for my environment. And like like out of invention, because I can't afford the stuff now to go and buy, just to keep it neat. I mean, I've done like a lot of headband holders, and I've been running up my own curtains. God's told me about not people not being able to like look in. I can't afford like blinds at the moment, but I've been using shower curtains and modifying them and stuff for the windows. And they've turned out really well. They block out the nosy parkers, but they let in light, if you know what I mean. And they're like very private, so he's been putting that on my heart just in case things turn for the worst and certain fractions in society, like start spying on you and wanting to get into your place. Like and things like that, like blackout curtains, just in case there are riots and stuff like that, and they're checking if you're alive or not. God is going on about double meaning language. Something my brother said earlier, talking about stew. He says that's stupid. I mean, this is mad. Some of the stuff that he talks about. So I'll just leave that there. You know, when you are all dressed like alternatives, this is something I noticed. Like myself, when I was younger, I used to have like all dressed up and stuff. I saw something with these goths that were getting all dressed up to go to the local town, and you know, like just to visit the shops. You know, like now what an anticlimax that is. And I think like God's got the vision of this new era. You know, like where it's a celebration. It's like a life of being an individual, steampunk again, constant alternative steampunk. I don't know if he's kind of got me, like the way I'm interested in alternative looks and stuff. But I'm a fervent follower of God, and all the history is like pointing in my bloodline to a time of like a kind of Tartarian or Victorian time where we might have been merged, with like other tribes in our people that were a bit different, probably a bit more on the darker side, but still reverent and respectful for God. Whether they carried on in their own thing, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, and just that feeling of like being all dressed up and no place to go, like a kind of disappointing feeling. Just looking for the rest of it. Yeah. Like every day is Sunday, so it's a polar opposite to this kind of new Tartarian mindset where everything's kind of led towards entertainment and fun, not stupid kinds of entertainment and fun. I'm just thinking as well, like the local pubs, having like a jazz night, and it's kind of consistent wherever you go. Like live music and stuff, everything that's been made to be killed before there's like a human in its way. And lots of talent and inspiration everywhere. And it's also links with our Birmingham heritage of industrial, revolution and stuff like that. So kind of bringing the past into the future. And God was going on about like farming as well, like the Birmingham city centre. And I think he wants all these businesses, the high end sort of conglomerates, if you call it that, that are internationals out, like he wants that run down, mowed down and turned into farms, and shops, local traders and things, and the market, which they're trying ever so hard to delete constantly. It also says about bringing back steam engines, things that, are controllable, like unlike what they've done with the technologies, that we don't have a say. Whether we're caught in V2K or not, they just assume that we're just there to abuse. Just like now, I'm finding it hard to breathe, and I've got no way out. I can't go up there and smack the satellite out and give myself relief. I can't do that, and he's absolutely livid about that. Everything that works 50-50 with the human body, like a bicycle, a sewing machine, a train, like I don't know about a train, but like something that's human friendly, and not like the technocrats are doing right now, where they're putting you on the grid and like not letting you like access what you should do. Also, God says he will hand their technology, as I say, back as long as they do the right thing, and it will have to be well tested. As I say, a lot of V2K can still kind of be a good technology, and like most other things, but if it's used properly, I mean, it could be used for all sorts of things. Could be used for mental illness, could be used for spotting sorcery and prosecuting. It's been used in assistance, like with a medical thing, but it's just like the ethics behind it, like whether it's called for and stuff like that. So, like this period is going to be an exciting one. when it's finally installed. But what he's doing right now is he's appealing to these people who are dabbling in sorcery. You know, they might have to suffer a bit of embarrassment first before they're kind of welcomed in to actually expose this thing. So, you know, like, I want them to come along on the journey. You know, they thought it was boring before, but God is actually showing them that He's gonna, you know, like, let things go to them, you know, ideas and that, to enrich their lives, not worsen it. And it's pretty awesome. And this is a real demonstration of it, this Tartarian past knowledge of invention for all, you know, rich and poor that was. And hopefully we can wheedle out this class system. Thank you.